Hey everyone, you're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. We're chatting about how to get the most out of life.
And covering a ton of interesting topics.
So there's sure to be something.
For just about everyone. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I'm Amy, and this podcast we're going to be talking about rucking.
What is rucking?
Rucking's actually predicted to be one of the top fitness trends for 2024.
Fitness trends?
Yeah, you can burn a lot of calories rucking. Before we get into
Right.
that, let's go off on our usual tangents and just chat about some things that have been going on in our lives. So I just learned recently that they put ice in public urinals. So in men's washrooms.
I have seen that.
Why is this a thing?
I don't know. I think it's probably just like how quickly can you melt this? Or, just, I don't know. Maybe it's splash resistance.
The explanation I got was that men needed a little bit of a game, I guess, to encourage them to not, I guess, go all over the place and just and that there's even sometimes basketball hoops.
Yes, I've heard of this. Yeah.
What?
I've never seen that.
Why do you need encouragement
personally?
to aim?
What's that?
Women don't need that. We
No.
don't, need some encouragement to be over the toilet bowl. We just do our thing.
No, but it can be pretty unpredictable. I mean, it's not as easy as you think.
Unpredictable?
Yes, like it's easy to splash around places when you're peeing as a man.
Well,
It is. It is.
well, I'll have to take your word for it.
All right.
So ice helps this by, I guess, men are trying to melt the ice. Do they have to keep running in there and putting more ice in it?
First of all, where did you learn this?
I heard it on another podcast.
Okay. I think whatever a bar can do to really try and make men keep their urine where it should go, they're going to do.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Because some men just don't give a crap.
For our listeners who have never set foot in a male public washroom, I wanted to share that wonderful information with you because I was incredibly surprised it was a thing. And then also when I mentioned it to you and you knew it was a thing, that was also surprising. So I guess it's not that odd. Is there someone designated at the restaurant or bar to go in and just replenish the ice supply in the urinals?
I don't know. I've never worked at a bar.
Are they going in with like an ice bucket? Are they using the same scoop to put it into the urinals that they're using to scoop ice into drinks? I have a lot of questions around this situation.
I don't think that would be a worry. I don't think you should worry about that one. But
are they just running
that doesn't
from
mean
the bar
you won't.
with cupping the ice in their hands and running it in and dumping it into urinals?
I don't know. I think it's just really boils down to whatever they can do to keep their bathrooms clean as possible. They're going to do.
Okay, well, I mean, I often was told that what are the urinal pucks, that they're actually more for aiming than for scent.
I think it's a little bit of both, isn't it? Isn't it like 50-50? They do emit a scent.
I really don't. I have no idea what's going on in there anymore.
I don't either.
It's a complete mystery to me.
I'm a guy and I don't know either.
I once accidentally walked into a men's washroom here in St. John and there was a trough as a urinal.
Yes, they got rid of that.
I didn't know where I was, but there.
Yeah, it was a very strange bathroom. I know the bathroom you're talking about, and I always felt, I don't know. I have this double thought about it though. It does make sense. It does make sense if you want to maximize a wall for men going pee. That's the way to do it. Not just these individual little spots where you're. I don't know. But at the same time, it was very strange. I don't know how they keep it so clean or keep it clean at all. Not so clean.
I just picture horses going up to a trough and just trying to nose their way in there for a drink. And I just picture men doing the same thing, but the opposite.
Yeah.
All right.
You have really high thoughts on men.
Well,
or horses.
Well, it's just one of life's mysteries.
Yeah, that's true.
It's something you do all the time, but I'm sure you have questions about
I share the same questions actually. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
You just keep them in your head.
Being different,
Let's talk about giant sandwiches and hamburgers that you can't get your mouth around. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that as being an annoying thing. I have a list of just things that I was curious about this.
Yeah, it's like a
past
little
week.
like potpourri of trivia.
Well,
that
why
you're
do they
throwing
do
at me.
that? Why do they make things that you can't get your mouth around? Like, why did they bring it
I
to
think
the
it's
table?
the wow factor, and I agree. I mean, we talked about this before on, like, the way they do it in Europe is that they give proper portions of food and you can eat it. But here in North America, for some reason, they feel like you're like four people trying to eat a burger. Like you literally cannot get your mouth around some of the
It's
burgers.
just the shape of it, really. I
Yeah.
mean, they could give you the same amount of food, but make it flat.
Yeah.
That's why pizza's awesome. You don't have any problem opening your mouth wide
No.
enough to get that piece of pizza in. You can even fold it in half sometimes and get it in still. But not those giant, got to put a toothpick right down the center of them burgers to hold them together.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there, but because the only way to tackle a burger that's way too big to eat is just to nibble away until you kind of break through. I don't know. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. I mean, how many times have you gotten a meal at a restaurant, like, you didn't know how like big it was going to be until it arrived there on your plate, and you're like, what? How am I supposed to eat that?
I know.
Are you crazy? Like, are you literally crazy? I remember one time you got some nachos, and you're like, I'll just have the regular nachos.
Like they
and
were
they
like
came, and you were like,
appetizers.
what? I'm going to be eating this for 5 days. Like, it's nuts. But I don't know. Anyway, and so it is nice to take. I mean, we 9 times out of 10 will bring food home.
Well, and some things don't hold. Like nachos, it's annoying because they're not an easy reheatable type of food.
Not
They're-
easily done, but it can be done.
Well, yeah. I'm the person who eats peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch every day.
Yeah, you
That's
are.
my thing I discovered. I discovered that this was I always am perplexed about what I should eat for lunch during the work week and not wanting to really spend a lot of time on food prep. And I always ate PB&Js growing up in school every day, and I love them, and they're really perfect. They've got protein. You get some
Sweet.
you get some good bread. If you get some low sugar jam, you get a little bit of fruit in there.
Oh
I
no,
know,
you need the high sugar jam.
I know it's not super perfect. There's not any veggies, but if you're looking to fill the hole in the middle of the day, PB&Js, and you know what? You can get your mouth around them. They're
Yeah.
not ridiculous. And you also don't have to refrigerate them.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Let's get on to
The topic
Rucking.
at hand.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about fitness this week as I was walking to work on one of the iciest mornings that we've had this winter. And I wasn't expecting it because it was a rainy morning. I thought, okay, it rained enough. It rained through the snow and ice from the day before. It hadn't. I stepped out and it was ridiculously slippery. But normally it's like a 15-minute walk. Took like twice as long. There was one point when I was a little bit trying to go onto the lawn to try to find some sort of traction. And there was another guy walking on the path going to work. And the two of us just looked at each other because we were at a point where we just couldn't even move. It was just water on ice. And it was in nature's hands. And the two of us were just like trying to glide in the general direction of where we were heading. And it was just really frustrating. But the next day, my legs and butt were really sore. And I was like, that was a great glute workout.
There you go.
Jeff was just looking at me like, where are you going with this? And I didn't really know. I figured I would figure it out by the end of the story.
That's okay. You don't always need to know where your conversations are going.
Well, it's nice when people, tune in to listen that they have.
Our listeners are used to that. If
feel
they
that
listen
there's
to this
some point.
podcast, they're used to meandering conversations. And it's okay.
There was a point to the story, and the point is, if it's icy out and you don't get a concussion, at least maybe you get a good leg and glute workout.
One of the things that I find that is like a golden nugget of information is that in the Maritimes, we do have a lot of winter and stuff like that, in a lot of places. But I always found when you're in situations like that and you're walking across ice and you're just like, you don't feel stable. The best thing to do is, like, if you have to walk on the ice as if you just pooped your pants. And then you're just kind of like, glide along, you know what I mean?
The old
And
stick up the butt.
you keep
walk.
your center of gravity almost above your body. Just kind of, whoa.
That's how the penguins
And you
got to
make that sound too. Whoa. Yeah.
So this this rucking that we're going to talk about is
Rucking.
about walking.
Can you spell rucking? Is it just like what I think?
It's exactly the way you think,
Okay.
with an R at the beginning.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. Rucking.
Rucking,
Okay.
right? So, rucking it has its roots like in the military. When you think about people training in the military and they're walking with a backpack on, they actually call it a rucksack. And
Yeah.
they carry it a set distance and it has a weight in it. And it's, part of their military training. So a rucksack is basically just like a durable backpack that's meant for carrying equipment. And that's really where the term rucking came from.
I never even really thought of, how you do that in life and things have names and you never really think about where it comes from. I never thought about rucksack. Like, I never...
Have you heard the term rucksack?
Yeah, I have heard rucksack before. Yeah,
because you were in the Navy. Did you
Yeah.
have rucksacks in the Navy?
Well, just like in movies and stuff, you get past with that rucksack, But it's like, backpack. You understand where that comes from, but ruck.
I don't know. I don't know where the ruck came from. I know rucking came from rucksack.
Yeah.
But yes, I didn't dive deep into the etymology of ruck. But you had no rucksacks in the Navy.
No, let's get on with this rucking podcast.
Rucking burns a lot of calories.
Yes, it does.
It does, actually.
It does, and it's good for your health.
According to 901PT, 901PT is a physical therapy website, or physiotherapy if you're in Canada. They actually they talk about rucking, and they talk about how it's a great way to exercise because it's low impact, it builds endurance, burns calories, improves your heart health, posture, balance, bone density. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, how you can get into it. And what really made me think about this is a lot of people use walking or hiking as a regular form of exercise. And then you look at how can I level that up? So maybe you want to, increase the level of intensity or what you're burning for calories. And you are also looking to not create more impact on your joints. So a lot of people would say the logical progression from walking is to start running. Well, if you're not somebody who wants to get into running, so for me, I was a runner in the past, but now the impact on my joints and, it's just not something that interests me at this point. But with rucking, you're essentially carrying a weighted backpack while you're walking. So you're able to increase the intensity of the walk and the amount of exercise you're getting, but you're still doing a low impact activity because you always have one foot on the ground and it's more stable.
The idea of having a weighted rucksack, let's say, could that just be things that you just happen to have in your rucksack or do you have to have actual weights? Do you know what I mean?
I'm glad you asked. Well, weights are what are suggested. So I'll go through a little bit about how you can get into rucking if you're new to rucking, if you're a rucking virgin, so to speak.
Yeah, rucking virgin.
But what made me think about this too is that a lot of times people will walk for exercise and they'll do it perhaps to lose weight. Maybe they're losing a significant amount of weight and then the same amount of walking, same distance, doesn't result in the same amount of calories being burned. So all of a sudden they plateau because as you lose weight, you burn less calories doing the same amount of walking, the same amount of distance, because you're just basically the effort is lessened because you're carrying less weight.
Right.
And I found this fascinating because I was listening to another great local podcast out of St. John. It's called Kate and Isaiah Living Large. And they had an endocrinologist on just talking about this. And that was one of the things he mentioned, that a lot of times, as people are doing exercise and they're losing weight, they have to effectively do more exercise to burn the same amount of calories because now they're moving less weight as they lose weight.
Was this were they talking about rucking or was
no,
it?
Not specifically, but they just, the idea of weight bearing exercise, because whenever you're calculating how many calories are burned during exercise, body weight comes into account. if you're in a weight-bearing exercise. Obviously, if you're doing something like bicycling or something that's not weight-bearing, then body weight doesn't impact it as much. But if you're doing something like walking, running, or hiking, then how much weight you're moving will impact the effect of that activity.
I will take this moment to remind our loyal listeners that Amy has a background in kinesiology.
Yeah, I guess one of my...
You have a passion for this, and you can tell. It's
my
great.
varied education background includes Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology.
That's great.
So in saying all of that, hopefully it wasn't too diving... Was that your way of telling me I was diving down into the weeds a little too much?
No, it's good. No, it's very educational. It's fantastic.
All right. Well, so the great thing about rucking is that you can build up to it. So you start with your regular walk, and when you're comfortable with that, you can just gradually build up the amount of weight you're carrying. So I'm going to go through how you go about doing that. Great thing about it is it's a low-cost activity. Most people have a backpack. Obviously, a good supportive backpack is the best. If you have one with wider shoulder straps rather than thinner ones that might dig in with some weight on them. If you had basically a chest strap and strap around your lower back, it can provide additional support depending on how intense you get with the activity. But you can really just start out with a good rugged backpack, which most people have. And then again, just some regular footwear, good supportive footwear. Once you get up to higher weights, you might want to look at something that provides more ankle support. But I think for people for basic fitness, when they're just starting out, they can wear what they would normally wear on a walk.
When do you start putting the rocks inside the backpack or rucksack?
Well, you can do it straight away, Jeff.
Wow. Because they're cheap, too. You can just find a bunch of rocks anywhere.
Well, that's
couple
it.
Bricks.
And you can use, it's suggested you can use rocks, weights, bricks, cans of soup. But one of the important things to do is to have the weight situated properly in the backpack. So rather than having it intuitively, you would think the lower the center of gravity, the better. You actually want the weight to sit a little bit higher up on your back, closer to where your shoulder blades would be. So they suggest putting even like a volleyball or a rolled up towel, the base of your backpack, and then putting the weight on top of that. And they also suggest whatever you use for weight, roll it up in a towel just so that it's not something that's hitting your back. Because
that makes sense.
Rocks against your back, that's no fun while you're rucking.
No rucking rocks on your back.
I knew we were going to have fun with this one.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
You can't. How can you not have fun with rucking?
That's right.
GoRuck.com was where I got a lot of information. So if you're interested, listeners, in finding out a lot of details about this, they have beginner programs, and I'm going to go through just some real basics here, but it's something I'm going to try. I walk to and from work already, and an easy thing to do because I already carry a backpack, so I'm going to give it a shot. And the suggestion is to start with no more than 10% of your body weight. So for easy math, if I weighed 100 pounds, then I wouldn't want to add more than 10 pounds to my backpack as a starting.
That makes sense.
And you can actually burn, it's estimated, as much as 2 to 3 times the amount of calories as walking.
Yeah.
When you get to the higher level. So the most they suggest you get to is a third of your body weight, carrying a third of your body weight. So I mean,
you don't want to overdo it. You could probably get back problems.
Well, exactly.
Stuff, right?
Well, that's it. So if you're 150 pounds, then 50 extra pounds would be as much as you'd want to get to. And it does talk about the fact that you do need to be conscious of whether or not you already have pre-existing health conditions. And, I should really say that for any activity or exercise that we talk about. Go talk to your doctor before you get started. Otherwise, it's something that you can just really progress slowly. Like any activity, they always say increase no more than 10% a week.
Right.
Whether it's by weight or by distance. So it's starting out with 10% of your body weight at most in terms of what you carry in the backpack and increasing that by no more than 10% each week after that.
So I have a question for you. Like I've seen people, jogging or walking and they're holding weights instead of in a backpack. Obviously they're not rucking, they're just holding extra weights. Will that do the same? Will that have the same effect as having weights in a backpack?
Well, essentially,
rucksack?
I mean, depending on where, like with the physics of it, depending on where you're carrying the weight, it's going to be easier or harder. Obviously, it's like holding a weight out further from your body is going to be, more strenuous than if it's close to you. But I mean, rucking is based around the concept of carrying it in a very specific spot on your back. And if it's done properly, it'll actually help improve posture. So it can help with pulling your shoulders back, keeping you more upright. So people who work, say, in an office situation, hunched over a keyboard most of the day, it can be a real helpful activity to just straighten you up.
You know what's interesting too is no one will see you rucking, because unless you have a see-through backpack, no one's going to know. No one's going to know.
It's just your little secret.
Yeah.
Your little secret that you're sweating up a storm, doing what looks like a regular little walk up the hill. And all of a sudden it's very intense.
You got 50 pounds back there struggling up hills. And they're like, why is that person struggling to get up that hill? Little do they know that you've got the weight of a small child in your backpack.
Well, I was going to say, anybody who's carried kids around, they've done their share of rucking.
Maybe that you could take care of two birds with one stone and have a kid in the backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I don't like, just because you have to carry a kid around.
Stick the legs, or just grab any kid.
Or is that
just
one
grab
of the
any kid, put them in the backpack.
If it's it's easier if it's your own kid, because if you just run away with somebody else's kid,
it absolutely has to be your own.
That'll attract more attention. All right, so let's get back to this. It's a really interesting activity because it also helps with increasing bone density. So as we get older, we lose bone density. It can make us a risk of osteopenia and eventually osteoporosis. So doing weight-bearing activities do help to build bone density, and same with any sort of strength training. So rucking has that going for it as well. I'm going to give this a go. Now, during the pandemic, I actually used rocks, as you may remember, for weights because I was doing
Then we bought weights, and you couldn't believe how cheap they were. Oh my goodness.
I know. But it was the pandemic, and it was when it was basically shut down. You couldn't really go to Walmart and just go buy these little weights. So I went out in the yard and picked out 2 rocks and weighed them and found ones that were close to what I needed. And
whatever works.
I just needed light weights because they were just for a cardio workout, so high repetition. And they worked well, so then I used them for literally years after the pandemic. And I think it was only last year that I finally broke down and bought real weights. Yes, you're right, Jeff. They were ridiculously cheap.
I was surprised, to be honest, at how cheap they were, too.
They were just a few dollars. And
they were just a few.
I had been using rocks for a very long time.
I know.
Anyway.
I love it, though. I mean, that's...
I can repurpose the rocks. The rucksack can be a rock sack.
Yeah, rock sack. That's right. Rock and roll.
So the Special Forces use rucking as like the ultimate exercise. It's incredibly functional. It helps build endurance and strength. So if you think about military units doing it as part of their marching and what they do for general fitness, it lets you know that it's a good activity, an activity that can develop strength that can be used in day-to-day life, whether you're lugging furniture around or luggage at the airport. Rucking is very similar to real life, world situation.
It makes it so much easier when you don't have that extra weight in your backpack and you try to do the same thing. So it's like endurance. Actually, don't they do that? Like, I remember seeing, it's kind of similar. No, that's different completely, isn't it? The tension, when they're running. You can't
see this, but Jeff's doing some great running motions here.
Yeah. You're running with the tires tied to you or whatever, and then you're like, you're trying to pull it.
And then someone just cuts the rope and you just feel like you're flying.
Yeah, I've never seen that part of it, but that would be cool.
So I'm super excited to try it with some weights, and I will report back, listeners, just tell you how I make out going to and from work, and it'll be interesting. So the idea of rucking is actually called on GoRuck.com. Active resistance training. So it means you're doing strength and cardio at the same time. And it can really help you be better at other activities. So it can make, if you are into running, you can alternate with that and you can become a better runner, be stronger for doing your martial arts, whatever sport you may do. And so it has all of those benefits of training not only the legs, but also the core and even the upper body. So it's obviously, it's really focused probably more on stabilizing, but you can start with as little as 1 to 2 miles once or twice a week and then build from there. But they do recommend that, 3 to 4 rucks per week is probably as much as you really need to build up to.
Okay. Sounds good.
Does it? Does it sound good?
I guess it does. I wonder why rucking has become so popular in recent times. Like what?
Well,
Was it like featured in a movie, or is it just like, physical activity goes through different trends?
it does.
Yeah,
I think that's
I guess
it.
that's it, eh?
I think anything that's easily accessible, low expense, you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of equipment. So when you're talking about your pace, when I look at the Go Ruck website, it was really based around the US, and they talk about the United States Army, and their ruck march standard is 15 minutes per mile. So you should try to keep your pace under 20 minutes per mile, but 15 minutes to cover a mile is a great goal to work towards. So if you're thinking about how fast you want to go. And if you're in Canada, just convert that over to kilometers. 1.6 kilometers to the mile.
There you go.
Just get that calculator out. All right. And listen to your body, if you do start to feel achy, or you may need to do some adjustments. Look at your posture. You definitely don't want to exacerbate or create an injury that didn't exist in the first place. So if you're brand new to exercise, you start out with 5 to 10% of your body weight, as I mentioned. If you've been exercising, and doing a regular walking or weight training routine for a number of weeks, you might be able to start out as much as 10 to 15% of your body weight, but start slow. Lots of time to build up. And some people even recommend you could carry books.
Yeah.
You could carry them right out of the house, Jeff.
Do Stephen King's It or whatever, some kind of big book, or old textbooks that we used in university that are just collecting dust.
So when you are out doing your activity, make sure that you're staying upright. Have that healthy posture. You don't want your shoulders rolling forward. If you lean too far forward, you're going to put pressure on your back and your neck. So make sure that you don't, overweight your rucksack and then end up compensating with bad posture. That's really important. You want to maintain that, keeping your shoulders rolled backward. Again, the opposite of what you're doing all day is you're hunched over your keyboard. I say to myself, keep your core engaged. And in terms of your strides, it's recommended you just do short strides, frequent steps. And again, you think about sort of almost like a bit of a shuffle motion, and always keeping one foot on the ground.
Now, would that be something that you would do, like just, walking through the city, or could you do it through trails and stuff?
Yeah, you could do it anywhere.
Do it anywhere. Okay, that's cool.
And, ruck, don't run.
Ruck, don't run.
When we talk about low impact activity, high impact activity, if you're adding weight on top of that and all of a sudden you start to run, you really might be setting yourself up for injuries. So
absolutely, you don't want that to happen.
If it's not something you've been doing, then it's not a good place to start. And that padded hip belt I mentioned can really help out when you get up to those higher weights. In the meantime, I'm really just going to I'll probably put a 5-pound weight in my book bag and
you'll report back and let us know how it all goes.
I might even go with an 8-pound weight.
That's a good idea. I mean, why not, right? You're going to do it anyways. You're walking to and fro from work. Why not make it a little bit more of a workout?
That's exactly why I found this so fascinating. I want to just finish off with talking about my little fall that I had this past week.
Oh yes, your fall.
It was. Ooh. It was it wasn't outside on the ice. It was inside on our hardwood floor.
Why don't we lead up to how that happened, though?
Well, okay.
So I brought a coffee table from downstairs, upstairs, and you're like, we should clean that. And I'm like, yes, we should, because it's probably got like 3 layers of dust on it. So you got out Pledge, and you decided to start cleaning this coffee table right where it is, like when I brought it upstairs from the basement, and it was already in the spot where the floor was the most slippery.
We all knew it.
We all knew, like we all know about this one spot on the floor.
We know it's the slippery spot in our house. We've been saying it for years, yet we've failed to address it. We are all like, that's a slippery spot.
Yeah.
Be careful.
So directly after, through the process of cleaning it, the Pledge, that didn't get on the coffee table went directly back on.
Yeah, there was a good overspray. And I don't even know why we have Pledge. I hate Pledge. It's stupid. It's a stupid product. It just creates a coating. I don't like the smell.
You should write a nasty letter to them.
And it just, I don't know. I don't find it's a product that maybe made sense 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but we had an old can, and I feel this compulsion to finish it off.
Let's make a pledge right now to get rid of that pledge.
But I thought, you know what? Maybe this time this is a job for Pledge on this old wooden coffee table.
It made matters worse. Let's be honest.
And I saw the overspray and I thought I should do something about this overspray because I could picture in my mind somebody falling. And
2 days pass.
well, I did do something that night. I quickly wiped it with some all-purpose cleaner, but that was not sufficient, my friends, because we were watching some trashy reality television show.
And the commercial was over.
On. Yeah, and
in
I went out to get a
Amy.
snack, and Jeff's like, "It's back on! It's back on!" and I came running from the kitchen.
You did.
With my bowl of apple crisp, which was the
Your
last.
last
It was the last bowl
bit
of homemade
of it.
apple crisps that I had, and I just completely slid out and wedged myself in a door frame, and I laid there.
Not knowing what you hurt.
No.
I didn't know either.
As I lay
I was
in
just
the
like, I watched
pile
it all
of-
happen. I was on the couch all nice and comfy underneath my blanket. I look over, and boom, you're on the floor.
And you said,
I was just like,
you said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, don't move."
don't move.
And I did not move for probably about 2 or 3 minutes because I would, well, when you go from vertical to horizontal that quickly, it takes a while to regroup. I still had the bowl in my hand, although the apple crisp was all over the area.
I didn't know
rug
what to do,
and
so I was
in my
just running
hair.
around cleaning up the house. So all the apple crisp that went flying was taking it off the ceiling.
And I was like, I didn't hit my head. I basically landed on the side. I hit my knee, my hip, my shoulder. And I'm like, did I dislocate my shoulder? No. I actually ended up
You got up?
not too bad. I was absolutely surprised. I spent some time with, a bag of frozen peas. We only had one bag, so I contorted myself so that every part of my body that hit the floor all were basically jammed on this one frozen bag of peas. But
And it worked.
It did
You didn't
work.
bruise very badly.
did a little rest ice, compression elevation, and I minimized the contusions, and I lived to tell the story. And you know what we did to fix the slippery spot? I had vinegar in a spray bottle, which I usually mix with a little bit of water to spray over apples and fruit to get the pesticides off. So I just increased the concentration of vinegar and really went to town on that slippery spot on the floor. Left the vinegar spray on overnight, and now it is no longer a death trap, and
Yeah, no
I
one
can
slipped
run from the
since.
kitchen and survive. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, though, while I was lying there, I was most sad about the apple crisp.
I know you were.
I was
Remember, I gathered it all up and put it on the counter in the kitchen, and there was all this hair sticking out of it.
It was in my hair. It was literally, I had pieces of it in my hair
Yeah, so
when I fell.
I'm like, you're not gonna eat that. You're like, well, no.
No. But that's what happened.
But it just goes to show how quickly things can change. Boom, you're laying down.
Socks,
Hurt.
Pledge, hardwood, not a good combo.
Yeah, don't do it, people. Don't do it. Thank you for listening to our Rucking podcast, everybody.
Yeah, happy rucking.
Happy rucking.
Bye-bye.
Ruck on. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to check out past episodes and subscribe to keep up with what's new.
You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, and why not leave a review?
You can also follow Infrequent on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Till next time.